back. Today is Monday, February the 10th. I just said hello to my students. Um, happy happy Monday. Here we are back again in the virtual classroom. We're approaching the halfway finish line of the semester. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a little bit of a break as well. So I hope you guys will take that time to kind of reflect back of what you've learned and apply some methods and techniques to future potential projects and your creative ambitions going forward. And hope you guys are having fun so far. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to share my screen and we'll look at Blackboard to begin with. I always check the YouTube channel. Sometimes the videos don't always load. I have to re-upload some of the settings and stuff. So it looks like it's okay. Just the thumbnail's missing for the last one. So we'll have to fix that. But nonetheless, it's all good to go there. Um, let's have a look at the calendar quickly. I like to look at it from the month view. So as I mentioned earlier, today was the movie poster project that was due today. I got some comments from some of you in the messages for maybe an extension or so if possible. I think I granted you like one extra day. So do your best if you can, but I know it's maybe your first main project for this class, but going forward, we want to be really strict and proper with our due dates and our assignments. So this way you just have to do your best to submit it on time. There are circumstances where we give you extensions and stuff, but we want to stick to the due dates because that's the rules we have here. Madsen, go ahead if you have a question.
Just confirming the due date is until midnight today, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, we do
Okay.
the
Okay.
the
Okay.
midnight due date. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Perfect. Yeah. It's just because you said like the due date was today, and I was confused. Like, wait, I thought I had until midnight, but no. Okay. All good. All good.
That would be unfair then, right? It's like, can you imagine I made it like 1 a.m. or something? That's not right. No.
Yeah. No. Thank you.
The, yeah, there is now. Having said that, what we did in person, a lot of the classes. I'm assuming this happens in your other classes as well. The assignment is due like right after class. So if this was like an in-person class, maybe I would request that. It's been done before. Reason is because I can help some of the students in person. Maybe they had some questions and answers, but usually after class, that's when they submit the assignment. Especially if it's a hard delivery, like you have to print something, mount something, or even we used to collect USB sticks from students. There was no Blackboard. We didn't have these systems in place. Students would submit their projects to the computer. They would come one by one. They would line up and come and submit the projects. It was quite interesting times. I'm going back a little earlier now, but boy, it wasn't that long ago since I remember. So now, because this class is being taught virtually, we do have that luxury of giving you, till the end of the night and stuff like that. It's only fair. All right, so that's that. We do have a few. This one, I think this one should be already done. As long as you handed that one in, you're good. As long as you're handing everything in and you're doing your best, there's no problem with you guys having a great time in all your classes, not just mine, and doing well as well with your grades. Um, so let's go ahead and see. I'm going to go to the content area here and see what's on the next. Oh, by the way, did you guys get a chance to get briefed on your composite assignment yet? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Your composite assignment?
Yeah, Roberto has mentioned about it already, and I think yeah, we were just missing your part of the assignment because he mentioned like maybe you had some requirements to regarding the photos that we are using
That's
for
right.
the campaign. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, so there's a different component for every class. Okay. So I think it's visible by now. Should be visible here. I'm getting an error code here. Let me zoom in. Mhm. So you're doing an ad campaign, as you know. The main brief did come from Roberto and the topography class. There'll be also a shared rubric from your other classes as well. Composite assignment was introduced years ago and it carried through, even till today. It's a good way for you to utilize all the tools and programs that you're learning, the applications, and create a project that will pretty much be covering all the subjects that you're learning. So in this case, it's a perfect example that you're going to be learning um, how to create an ad campaign and not just deliver it in one software. You're going to use a little bit of Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, okay? And I don't know if I guess typography. I think it's InDesign, um, Illustrator, and Photoshop. There's no web partake in this. I think the second composite assignment, which is the last one you're going to get at the end of the semester, it will be a web component as well. So this one's going to be pretty much similar to the expectation that you're delivering for your other classes, but the difference is I'm going to grade it on your Photoshop involvement in this. Okay. So let's look at it closely. So it's a magazine advertising campaign. You're going to create 3 magazine ads. Okay. The thing is now in my class, I want you to optimize that design and delivery and create the web social media ads. Because right now, to be honest with you, these are way more effective and popular um, than print ads. Print ads was kind of big, maybe a decade ago, if not more. Over the years, print kind of faded out as a I guess a popular trend. I wouldn't discount it completely. Print is still viable. I think it's still a great source of advertising and influence of different creative designs and ads and stuff. But a lot of the stuff is digital now. I asked you today if you guys watched the Super Bowl. I love watching Super Bowl ads. We're talking like, tens of millions of dollars for 30 seconds. Now, these are video advertisings, but also who's to say, a lot of the planning and the execution and the delivery, there's a lot of graphic design involvement as well. Now with social media at its peak, I mean, you can do a lot of this stuff with the social media ads as well. So you're going to convert your 8.5 by 11 print ad and you're going to create a web media, like a web social media ad as well. So you're going to basically do both. All right. And here's the brief for that one. For the digital imaging Photoshop, which is this class, you're required the following items upon submission of the campaign project. So I want to see proper image optimization, CMYK. This is for the print design. So we still have to um, stick with the print components for now. And then you're going to do the RGB conversion for the social media campaign. Okay, that's why I'm going to go over this with you thoroughly so you understand. So this is all about the print. Okay, and the social media is separate. As a matter of fact, I listed that over here. So this is the social media part. What I'm also going to do is maybe add the RGB mode as well. Color mode. So this is your social media adverts, and this is your print media adverts. Okay, this doesn't take too long to produce. Once you have all this stuff done, you're going to then just convert it to match this size here. So you can put it on Instagram, Facebook, um, I think LinkedIn. It's going to be an image ad. It won't be like an animation or a video ad. That is something that you're going to create near the end of the semester. I will teach you some animation in Photoshop. We are going to make animated GIFs. So you are going to do some more interesting content. But for now, we're going to stick with just like a nice print design ad that you're going to convert from print over to the web part, which is the social media campaign. Okay. So again, let's look at some of the deliverables that entail for this. So proper image optimization of CMYK. This is for the print. Okay, so you have to know how to do print um, um, production, right? Print ready file formats to be saved for the page layout documents. Like how would you save files from Photoshop to InDesign? So you're gonna have to make sure you optimize them properly, and we're gonna cover that. Okay. So CMYK 300 DPI will satisfy the need for this page layout preparation. Layer masks are to be used in some of the images to show transparency. That's a thing we covered last week, and we're going to keep continuing learning or implementing more intermediate and advanced techniques to your design capabilities. Various selection methods are to be demonstrated as well. Of course, you have to use selection methods in order to create some nice creative designs in Photoshop. So that's a given. Layer blends. Okay, again, this is very similar to the poster delivery. We're just reiterating the same techniques for the ad campaign. So nothing really that new. As a matter of fact, a lot of students get better at this. And that's why when they introduce the same methods back and forth, you get to actually do it a lot better this time. Layer styles are optional, but can help with the overall presentation. At least one filter is to be applied, subtle or drastic, to achieve the effect. So I want to see some creative stuff with filters if you want to throw it in there. And good luck and have fun. So basically, same as the criteria is very similar to the poster. The only difference is you're creating 3 magazine ads, and then you're gonna hand in the same thing to Roberto's class because he's gonna want to see the ads too. All right. Um, I don't know what the other teacher. I think it's Sheila with the illustrator. I guess you're gonna show her what she wants to see. But for my class, it's the Photoshop part. So whatever the Photoshop part that goes into the ads, the best way is just to submit the same file to all the teachers. Okay, that's what we've done in the past. So whatever you give Roberto, you can give me, and I'm going to open the source files and see what students have done in that folder. I will show you examples from other students to better, demonstrate this. Okay, and this is your breakdown. It's out of 25%. So it's a heavier grade, but this is like one of your bigger projects. So I want you to make sure you take it, you consider doing all the important work on this one, okay? Um, so I got to change the due date here. It's due after the reading week. This was, again, every time I do this, I have to change the dates. So it's going to be due January, February 10th, 17th, 24th. So this is class number 5, 6, 7. So 7, I'm going to have it due. So March the 3rd, okay? I think that's the time you're going to be handing it in or presenting it in Roberto's class. So I'm giving you time to compile it and submit it to me. Basically, I'm almost a month from now, maybe like 3 weeks, okay? So you have 3 weeks for this one. And like I said, it's not just for my class. You're going to do it for the other classes as well. All right. So I'm going to save this. I think that's that. When is the due date for the other teachers? When is the due date for Roberto's class for this one? Can you guys share that with me so I don't have to ask him? When did he assign it to you? Do you guys know?
The thing is that we have like a previous date, like I forgot the name of like the proposal
That's
for
the
the
proposal.
campaign.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
propose, do the prep.
and
Yeah,
this
the
is for
proposal.
the 18, if I'm not mistaken, or the 20. Someone is sure about that, guys? I think it's the 20th.
No, it's on the 18th. Uh,
18, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, typography and InDesign on the 18th.
So the proposal's on the 18th, and then the final delivery is probably due March, right? The
Yeah,
first week of March,
Yeah,
yeah.
March 11th.
March 11th.
Yeah, according
Okay,
to
so
the Blackboard.
So if it's March 11th, then I'm gonna honor that and give you guys the same date, okay? 'Cause I like to be in you know in same kind of timeline with everyone else. So I will make it do on the 10th then. So you have a lot more time than I thought. So you actually have a month for this. So 10th of March is when you're gonna hand this in, okay? So that's the date we're gonna stick with. I was kind of thinking, you know what, it is a little too soon because usually when I assign this assignment, I give you like a good 3, 4 weeks. So that looks right. Okay, so Monday, March the 10th is when this assignment's due. Keep in mind, they started this semester on a Wednesday, so it does throw us off a little bit with our due dates. So if something does happen, we're pretty flexible with moving things around. As long as it's within a week or two, it's okay. It doesn't affect our semester, but we did start the semester on a Wednesday. And then we had your class on a Monday. For me, it was like week 2. I already have other classes. I started teaching Wednesday and Friday. So no problem though. It's okay. It's just an extra day. Speaking of
And now,
ex,
yeah,
yeah,
speaking
go
of,
ahead.
sorry, we're just speaking about dates and everything. What happened next Monday? Because it's family day, so we are not having this class, is it? Or
It's family day, so we bring all our families and we get together. We're gonna go off for lunch for family day. We're gonna bring your
that will
laptops.
be
We're gonna
fun.
do Photoshop. Everybody bring your families, and we're gonna do a family day together. Okay? How does that sound? I'm kidding, right? No, it during holidays, I know it's online. Sometimes it did. If it's really crucial, we can probably squeeze in an online lecture. I'll put a video. We're gonna respect the holiday. We're not gonna have a class that day, so we do have a day off. What I'm going to do, however, is schedule another day for the lecture. I'm gonna probably upload a video, or we can do like a live session some other time. I will upload something for us, okay? So no, there's no classes next Monday because the family day. But thank you for bringing it
Thank
up
you.
because I was going to talk about it anyway. So the fact that you asked me the question, Matson, it's good. All right. And yeah, you deserve to have some time with your families and stuff. I remember when Family Day was introduced. Oh boy, like was it like 20 years ago? It was there was no holiday from January, after the main holidays, January, February, March. There's like nothing. And then they introduced the family. They said, people were saying we need a little holiday here. So they introduced Family Day, the third Monday of every February. I think that's when we had a premiere by the name of Dalton McGuinty. The only good thing he did was introduce Family Day, according to what people say. And this is what the holiday was announced. And no, Valentine's Day is not a holiday, by the way. It's just you know, a day to, show love and stuff like that, express love to the special someone. But that's not a holiday. So the only holiday is Family Day. Okay, so next week no class. I'll post an announcement, and then I'll probably put a recording of a video lecture just to cover that class. So we don't miss any material. Okay. All right. Any other good questions? Now, here's the big question. Do you want to see some samples, or you probably did see some samples already from other students in regards to this project?
I think yes, because we have seen in Roberto's class, but I think probably it's just his part of the assignment.
That's
So I
right.
don't know if we have examples from your part of the assignment.
Yeah, exactly. So his examples is exactly the same as mine. The difference is I get to show you the Photoshop parts, which is the components of the delivery. Okay. So the layout might look similar, but the fundamentals and the deliveries you'll see in Photoshop. Tell me, Fish, did he show you like a lot of examples, or maybe last semester? It was a big group we had, that's why. So I'll show you that one as well. So let's do that now before we get into the lecture, and then we'll get into the other stuff I wanted to cover today, because you do have like an in-class assignment you're gonna do for me, and we're gonna talk about that later and some other materials that we left over from last week. And that's it. That's the main lesson for today's class. Let's go ahead and start with the student examples first, because I always show you that one. Can you see my screen, by the way? Yes. Okay, I can see now. Good. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go over to my desktop here. Okay, so this is the ad campaign section that we had. Um, so this is the ad. This is the ad campaign package. Bear with me because I have a lot of files. Sometimes students gave me different parts. So if you see something missing, that's because I probably saved it in a different folder. Keep in mind, I'm managing you know, like last semester, I had to manage like 80 to 90, sometimes 100 students. So it's a lot of work load on our end. Even answering messages in the email, sometimes we need like 2, 3 days. Sometimes I usually get back within 24 hours. So in case I did not get back to you, especially on the weekend, sometimes, we do get busy. But during the week, that's kind of the rule of getting back to students. So hopefully I didn't miss your messages if you guys save me some, because if it lands on a Thursday or Friday, it gets into the weekend, and that's when we miss it sometimes. Okay, so this is Jack Tar. This is his ad campaign package. Look what he gave me. He gave me the package for InDesign, which you can give to Roberto, and he also gave me the social media posts. This is the extra thing I want to see for my class as well. So this pertains all the social media adverts that promote the ad, not just for print, but also for web. Okay, so this is the web campaign. This is the InDesign file. These are the links. Okay, and this is some of the Photoshop files that he put together. This is the PDFs. So I guess the main target is the environmental defense fund, and this is the ad campaign. You see the nice picture there. So this was obviously done in Photoshop. There's no way you can produce something like this just by using basic software. So really nicely done, projecting the environment catastrophical effect that we're having in today's times. There's another one here. Okay, you can see a lot of Photoshop design here. There's another one. Okay, so this is all telling a story. Sometimes they say an image is worth 1,000 words. But can you imagine if you use Photoshop with images, you can multiply that by another 1,000, right? Of course. Now, this is the links that were used for this assignment. So if I open up some of the images this is the stuff I look for into the PSD files, you can see how this was generated and the work that was involved. Depending on the complexity, and each student produced different files for this. So this is some of the stuff that was done there. Some layer masks, some earth. There wasn't a lot of work done in this particular scenario, but I mean, it did help with the overall delivery. So this is the Photoshop file that was submitted to support that overall design. I think this one looked a little more, depending on the design, somewhere more. I think this one here. This was the other Photoshop work that he did. There was more files, I think, with this one. Maybe I'm missing a few here, to be honest with you. There's this one here as well. So it's more like removing the background for this one that he put together. Um, Let me just see if there's a better example of the Photoshop demonstration of how this was put together. By the way, here's the social media posts from that. Oh, this is the more Photoshop work you can see here. There it is. So you can see the Photoshop work that was done to create the actual social media post. Sometimes you might do more work in Photoshop for the social media than the print media. I still want to see both. So this is, you can see the Photoshop file that produced the Instagram ad in this case. And here's another one here. So once the creative is done, you can just work with that one. And there's a Photoshop file on the right supporting that one as well. So the print and the web, there's two different ones. This was a social media advert. These are the Photoshop files. They're all PSD files. This is the package file. So you can see here how you can see the ad. And this is Sweep and Scrub. That's the name of the actual advertiser. It's about time management and things like that. And you can see here how this was done. So this was done in InDesign, but the actual links, this is the Photoshop files. So I'm looking for this, obviously. You can see here how a lot of different, layer masks were used in combination with other parts. So there's a lot of Photoshop work that was done on this one. You can tell by looking at different layers here, right? I mean, substantial amount of work you can include in here, as long as it works to convey the message that you're trying to do for the campaign. Okay. And with Photoshop, I mean, sky's the limit, right? You can tell so many different stories with the program by using it to your own advantage. And here's another one here. Okay. You can see all the Photoshop work that was done. And here's the other one. All right, let me show you a few. I want to show you some of the more different ones, okay? So you can see a little more interesting Photoshop work. Here's another one here with typography. This was a good way to I guess demonstrate the typography part. This is the PDF victory through effort. This is an Under Armour ad. And this is the social media ads. So there's the three. So you have an 8.5 by 11, right, for the magazine print, or 8 by 10, whatever the criteria is. And then there's the social media ad component as well. And the links will have, I'll show you the Photoshop file. And this is the Photoshop file for this ad. Okay. So you can see lots of different overlays and stuff, right? So this was nicely done, especially with the typography implementation of imagery in Photoshop. They're able to achieve that same consistent look throughout, whether it's, very consistent. And yeah, it was really well executed with the typography addition to it. Manasvi, let's see what Manasvi did here. There's another one. Okay. It's like a yoga, I think, ad. Alo, it's like an app. Okay. Interesting. Lots of typography work. Just to show you again the Photoshop components, you can see how all these layers will generated to produce this ad as well. Okay. Right. And I showed you last week how you can take typography, I think it was even a week before, from Illustrator to Photoshop. So I don't mind if I would definitely prefer Illustrator for typography design. And then there's InDesign as well, which is your final placement option to put your ad together. So you do Photoshop, Illustrator. I would do typography in Illustrator. I would do all your image editing stuff in Photoshop, and I would do the final layout in InDesign. Even for the social media ads, you can do the same thing. Just the sizing has to be done differently. So that would be my take on this. InDesign would be your last destination. I think you asked me this question last week. I said, no, you can't bring things from InDesign into Photoshop. It's just not how it works, right? Here. Is this the ones you saw from Roberto, or you saw some other ones? Do you remember seeing these ones at all? These are pretty
No.
new.
No.
They were different, not these
Yeah,
ones.
he showed you some older. This is last semester. He showed you some older ones, maybe. So there's the social media ads. So this was the last semester. We had a pretty big group of students. And again, you can see the Photoshop work that entails this design. This was for the social media production. So here. Dove, right? That's obviously the soap company called Dove. And if I open up the file, you can see all the different, pieces, the way the ad was put together. It was done like this. Now, you could do a lot of the typography in InDesign. You can just do the images in here. So like this, for example, you can do this part in InDesign. The logo you can put in InDesign, some of the stuff. But this, however, you might want to put it together in Photoshop, whether it's more effects or less effects on what your montage might look like, right? Just gonna skip a few here to get into the that one looks simple, but they did a lot of work into that one. I remember the student doing it. Over. There's another one here. It's time to walk. Havainas. That's the advert there. So it's like a vacation um, clothing or so bikini fashion magazine, I guess. Yeah, that's the one. I thought it was a destination. And again, to show you the Photoshop files, you can see how a lot of different Photoshop techniques were used to assimilate this ad design, whether it's the texture in the background, some of the effects, the images, even the typography. But then again, you can implement the typography in InDesign to accommodate this design as well. Just do the images in Photoshop. So, see here. Dyson, the vacuum company. Okay. Um, then there's the carousel for the social media posts. Okay, notice how the sizes are different. So students gave me InDesign files. You can just give me the PDF. You don't have to give me the InDesign file, but if it's easier for you to collect everything, then that's fine too. And here's the forest. So this was the Photoshop files that supplement or supports the overall delivery of the ad. So if I open up the Photoshop file here, you can see how the students utilize Photoshop to create this advert, right? You can see here everything was kind of put together in a Photoshop format, right? I mean, this you could have done it in InDesign, but sometimes students want to like don't try to do everything in Photoshop. Don't do the typography in here. Do the typography in Illustrator, and maybe then superimpose it in InDesign. Here is just the imagery. Okay, so just that's what you want to the takeaway from showing you these examples, um, right? A lot of Photoshop files there. Let me see if I can pull up a few more. This was like more like a travel ad for the Philippines. This one's kind of interesting. It was a Lego ad, right? But I think he did a lot of Photoshop work when it came to the Lego. He's trying to put a Lego together using Photoshop. I don't know if I have the files. I think there was another one that was missing here. And this is the social media conversion of the Lego ad. Okay. There's the InDesign file. So some students like to organize their structure different. They have 3 folders, one for each campaign ad, and in that folder they have their PDF, InDesign file, fonts. It's like packaging, right? I'm sure Roberto reiterated how packaging is the most important part in design, right? You package everything together, so then everything is nicely organized when you do deliver the actual advert, right? So here's a Photoshop file, and you can see how this was all put together using different Photoshop techniques. So there's a lot of overlay layers and stuff, right? And again, some of the typography you can implement it in InDesign or Illustrator. Doesn't have to all be done in Photoshop. Try to organize it nicely for me because sometimes I do get students that just put stuff everywhere. Think of me looking at this for the first time, and you can see here how easy it's for me to look at these files. There's some powerful ads there as well. Interesting, right? So this was the Instagram trio of those ads. So it's like I think like a bakery type of theme for the um I think it's like a French bakery or French baguette, I should say. You can see how it's the Instagram and there's the Photoshop ads. And yes, I'm sure if I open up the Photoshop ads, you can see how all the work that was done in Photoshop, you can see how it was all put together using various of layer blends, layer modes, different techniques that you can integrate to put this whole thing together. All right, it's a few more and we'll wrap it up. Okay, I'm just going to try to find a really, really good example of the overall accomplishment with putting it together here. Let's see here. Man, this one here, this one here. This one's good too with the pollution. So Nest Cafe, here's another one here. This is the print advertising, right? This is the social media ads. So these are the RGB ones. Just a little resizing there. And there's the Photoshop files. So here's the Photoshop file of how this is all put together. And again, it just depends on how much, work you want to put into each program. But I'm looking for, just reasonable amount of Photoshop work you can demonstrate that you can put together to get this thing accomplished. All right. So all in all, this is again, when you do this project, you're tackling all three classes at the same time. You're doing Photoshop work for me, you're doing the typography stuff for Roberto, and the page layout, and some of the Illustrator stuff. I don't think Illustrator even is a component in this. I might be wrong. I can't remember because sometimes we include it, sometimes we don't. Can you chime in on that one? Do you have to do any illustration in this or no? Is Illustrator part your digital drawing class? Is it part of this um,
I don't think
composite
so. I think so far it's just Photoshop and
page?
InDesign.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So then Photoshop and InDesign. Perfect. So you don't have to worry about the other classes then. But if you feel like you want to do some typography work in Illustrator, you can bring it over. You don't have to worry about handing it into that and to Sheila because she doesn't partake in this particular project. Alrighty. So I think you guys have a good understanding of this. Here's another one here, the social media ads. And this is the Photoshop files. And of course, you have the InDesign files too. Right. Just to recap everything quickly here. So there's the ad size, 1080 by 1080 pixels. The Facebook ads, because some of them are more like landscape, it's 1200 by 628. I think this is more popular now, so you can go with that one. Whenever you're looking at so if you look here, 1200 by 628, 1080 by 1080, and the feed is 1440. We're not doing feeds and stories, okay? So I'm only focusing on these two. And you can pick either one, whichever one you want to work with. Some students do this for real clients sometimes. You might have a job at a company that needs to do this. So you can kind of, if you can incorporate what you're doing at school at work, it'll be even better. So this is how you can post a real, Instagram or Facebook ad because it's Meta, right? This is for the Meta platforms. And I believe I gave you the same options over here. That's why I picked. And when you measure stuff for web, social media, you measure in pixels. Boy, gotta do every little thing here just to make sure. PX, PX, and PX. Obviously, you're not gonna put 1200 inches, right? When you print, you measure in inches. That's 8.5 by 11. So when you look at this here, you're doing, I think it's 8 by 10, if I'm not mistaken, or 8.5 by 11. This is the one that you're going to be doing for the Roberto's class, especially. So a lot of the Photoshop stuff will be done in my class. You're going to hand it in his class. So you're going to do two deliverables. He's going to look at the InDesign components. I'm going to be looking at Photoshop components. So that's how we do it. The marks may be different depending on what you do in each class. The outcome may be different. That's not going to mirror each one, but it all depends on each individual student. All right. Any questions? All right. If you have any other questions, maybe later on, next time we see each other, I'm going to be happy to share some better examples and some other ideas from other students that have done this. Yes, Bhuvanesh.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, I can use Illustrator software to develop something, like a logo or something like that in the ad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely recommend you do that. There's nothing better than using Illustrator for logo design or even typography, right? I
Yeah.
would, yeah, I would definitely use Illustrator, and then you can copy and paste it Do you remember how we
Yeah,
did
get a
the,
PNG and I
that's right.
can paste it in Photoshop. Okay. Yeah.
Not even PNG, use the vector file because you can scale it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Use the vector file, okay? Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
very good. Yeah, we did this, I think we did it last week. Remember we did Planet of the Apes, the movie poster example? I went to Illustrator and did the typography and stuff, and I saved it.
Yeah.
Creating
Actually,
outlines, isn't it?
Create outlines, yeah, very
mm,
important. Here, you know what? Just instead of us talking about it, why don't I just show you quickly here? It is important, you know. I really want to make sure you understand these important things that we're talking about. So, if you look at the last week's class, the layers, and we do have the I think this was the effects, right? Remember we did this in class. We totally changed it with, and this we recreated in Illustrator. I wish I saved the Illustrator file, but I didn't. But no way I'm gonna spend time doing this in Photoshop, especially moving things around back and forth. So I did it. I did this in Illustrator. I wish I would have kept the Illustrator file, but I don't have it here. Oh boy, it's like switching on me. Oh, I did one here, yes. So we did do an Illustrator file on a separate one. Right? And yes, you do create outlines, right? Type create outlines. Because if you don't create outlines, then you can't do some of the nice, you know, typography stuff that you can mess around with. And that's why you want to create outlines, right? Because then you can do lots of interesting things with it. Like that, right? Whatever you like to do that's consistent basis. When you create outlines, how do you know you can press Command Y, view, outline, or view preview? Once you create outlines, you can then copy, right? You can copy. You can also do save as. I would recommend you save it as an Illustrator file. Save it as an Illustrator file. Even EPS works. Do one of those. And then in Photoshop, you simply go File, Place, Embedded. I think we did linked as well. If you watch last week's video, we did linked to show you the difference. With linked, we're able to change the linked file in Illustrator and right away it updated in Photoshop. Remember that? We did some really cool stuff last week. Last week's lessons that was actually really action packed with everything. So please remember that's one of my favorite classes. We cover a lot of important topics in that one. Covered styles, layer blends, layer modes, a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, so make sure you watch that week's class. As a matter of fact, this lesson today, once I'm done my spiel and my presentation, we're gonna do an overall review of all the things we covered last week in another form of an exercise. So that's going to be coming up to you shortly. Okay. So watch that video and you can see how this was all set up for you. Yes, copy and paste does work as well. But when you do paste, you can edit it
You
externally.
mentioned, oh, that was also my question because I was actually copying and pasting, but I cannot do any changes at the Photoshop anymore.
Exactly. When you paste, you're devoted to just having it as is, and that's fine. When you want to do some external editing, you should go place instead of paste. That's why I wanted to show you both methods. If you're not going to be doing anything extra, then you don't have to worry about it. So this is pasted and this was placed. Okay? Does that make sense? All right.
Yep.
All righty. Very good. So Illustrator, I mean, by now, some of you are very new to this. So you're just now figuring out, hey, Illustrator does this, Photoshop does that, InDesign does this. all three programs are equally important. What you do in Photoshop is very special. What you do in Illustrator is very special, and what you do in InDesign is very special. Look, this is some of the digital drawing stuff we do in my class. This is the other class we do. I teach students how to recreate these logos, right? You can't do this in Photoshop. It'd be very, very difficult and not impossible, but difficult to do step and repeat and stuff like that, right? Even this one here, right? You can't recreate this in Photoshop unless you invest a lot of time with layers. So this is very, tricky stuff. Only Illustrator can do this kind of thing, right? You probably know this. I'm not going to overwhelm you with the Illustrator part. But if I have a circle here, right? If I do Option drag, Shift, and you do step and repeat, I mean, you can't do stuff like this in Photoshop, right? You know, and then I grab all these and I do this, step and repeat again. This is the stuff, it's the workflow of Illustrator that's really special that a lot of programs can't do, right? Even if you rotate it, like I think we did something like this when we rotate it, and then you do step and repeat, right? I mean, you can't match this anywhere else, right? I'm not gonna bother doing this in Photoshop when I can do it in Illustrator in seconds, right? Or minutes or whatever. This is why Illustrator is very special and different. And yeah, you can do, even things like this, recreating the Olympic rings logo, right? So we do little exercises like this to get you familiar with the program. All right, so let's go back to Photoshop now, because this is where we're going to be doing the next part. This is the class 4 layers lesson from last week. We covered all the ones that labeled. I did label the blue ones. We covered layer blends. There's an additional handouts for this to supplement my lesson. So we did do things like that last week from scratch. We also did effects. As I just mentioned, you open the file. We took this a step further and we used generative AI to produce our own spaceship. So we really went to the next level. We did bevel and emboss, really, really special technique to show you how to bevel effects for many different uses. We also did layer masks. Okay, we basically were able to blend things together back and forth. I don't know if these were the finished results, but yeah, these are the ones we covered last week. So the only ones remaining are these are the miscellaneous files, content aware scaling. We did this the week before with using content aware scaling Photoshop techniques. Okay, so you can basically do this. Yeah, so we did this in the previous one. It's just more like a repeat from the other file that we had, right? This is what the file looks like. Same with this one here. Okay, so there's no point, repeating ourselves here. This one's important. It's called the smart objects. Um, this you should kind of, I guess now is a good time to explain it better because you can see how a smart objects is the same thing I pasted from Illustrator, okay? Or the same thing you can place from Illustrator to Photoshop. It'll retain its original smart object form. What does that mean? That means it's non-destructive. You can scale something back and forth. You can, open it next year. It'll still be editable. Images don't have that type of presence. Images are destructive, not unless you embed them properly. So maybe I'll show you with this example how this is done and what does this mean for you in Photoshop. These are just little miscellaneous things you can do with the with the with this anchoring tool. Maybe I'll cover that as well. Right. So we don't have to do all these little steps, but in a nutshell, it will demonstrate how this all works. So I'm going to go ahead and open this file to show you all that stuff. Here we have the Apple logo, the original Apple logo that was launched back in the 80s, believe it or not. Behind the Apple logos, I have some merchandise material. We did this with the other lesson. Remember we did overlay, right? You can see how logos are very important because then you get to, overlay the logo or multiply instead of normal to do that. We covered this in the other
Sir, are
lesson.
you showing something right now?
Yeah, it's not sharing my screen?
No, we do see a screen, but we just see some folders.
You just don't see Photoshop, eh? Okay, let me just go back here for a second. Good point here. Let me see. Thank you for announcing that because sometimes it does glitch. It does go on and off. So now let's go back again. Can you see now my photo? Yeah, you can. I can see my thumbnail here. You can see the Photoshop file, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this was the sample file that I have with the Apple logo given. We did cover the overlay effects. Okay, so this was you overlay logos on top of merchandise. Sometimes it's even done in a way that's different. Okay, so you can see there's a hole through here. I mean, really, you can use a layer mask for that. I don't think this was done that accurately. But you can see how this was used for many different product samples. The main takeaway from this exercise, instead of me just going through all these images here, is to show you the main two. Make me smart, it says. So what's smart? What's not smart? If you look at this thumbnail very closely, there's nothing there, just the thumbnail of an image. This one here has a little thing here, like a little icon. That means it's a smart object. Basically, this is not a smart object. This is a smart object. Let me hide this one to show you. This is smart. This is not smart. How do you identify what's smart, what's not smart? By looking at this icon. If I was to place an image here by going File, Place Embedded, right? If I was to place something embedded right here, and I go to the desktop, and I go to my Humber folder, right? Do apologize, I got to turn off that ringer there. Shut my ringer off. I do shut it off. It's just, there's different things there. I have this new phone. Just turn off my ringer. There we go. So if you go to my lesson from last week, I'm gonna open that file here. There's the planet, same thing, right? If I bring this in, if I place it, okay, doesn't matter if it's vector images, right? I'm gonna make it nice and big. It's a smart object. So whether it's an image or not an image, by default, when you place something in Photoshop, it becomes a smart object. But if you copy and paste something from a different file, so we know how a smart object works, right? You just place it. But if I was to bring it in from a different image altogether, then it's not a smart object. So I'm going to open something up to show you that one as well. Maybe we'll go to this image here. Right? Remember that helicopter from last week? Well, let's remove the smart mask. I'm going to remove this and bring this helicopter into this image. Now, if you drag and drop, look, this is a smart object too. So that'll work as well. But if this was a normal image, let me just rasterize it because this is how you can turn something off from being a smart object. So by rasterizing the layer, let's just say this was a layer, right? Normal layer. And you were going to do, make a selection and do copy, right? Copy and paste. Sometimes you can even make a selection by hitting Command click. See, there's the selection. So I select anything, the sign, the trees, the helicopter, right? And I do copy, and I go over here, and I do paste, or Command V, right? You can see this is now not a smart object. So the difference again is this little thumbnail. This is a smart object. This is not a smart object. Okay, so what's the difference between smart and not smart? The difference is if you press transform. This is the biggest outcome here, that if you do this, if you do free transform and you make things bigger or smaller, the first time you do it, you might get away with it. It might look okay. But if you keep doing it back and forth, I'm going to come back here and press undo. I'm going to make this a smart object again, okay? Pretend, because it was already set up that way from the get-go, right? So if you were to do this, Command T, make it smaller, come back again, work on your design, and maybe decide this time to make it bigger. So you go back and forth, right? What happens is the image will get degraded. It's going to look poor in quality. I'm going to do it again. One more time. It really shows a difference if you do it multiple times. The more you increase and reduce the size of an image, the more of a deterioration that the result will be, you'll get. So the thing is, to avoid this from happening, is don't resize it back and forth like I'm doing it. But sometimes you need to do resizing when you do different tasks and jobs. So in that case, they advise you to make it a smart image. See, here's another example. This is smart. This is not smart. I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to press Command T, reduce them in size, press Enter, Command T again, bring them back up in size. Now they're both distorted, but when I press enter, the smart one doesn't get affected. The one that's not smart lost quality. One more time. Really like to exaggerate this. Again, small, big, press enter. Right. So you can see the difference. So how do you prevent this from happening? Well, this layer here says make me smart. So let's make this one a smart. So I'm going to delete the one that's not smart and pretend this is the same one in replacement, right? So same thing, smart, not smart. To make this also non-destructible, you would have to right click and convert it into a smart object. This is great if you're no longer editing stuff and you're, no longer concerned about taking away parts from the image. So if you do convert to smart object, they both have the thumbnail right now. So if I shift select both of these layers, and I do the resizing back and forth, press enter, Command T, press enter. No destruction, nothing happened. Why? Because they're smart objects. And this is why it's important to understand how to place images in Photoshop by keeping them embedded. Linked basically relies on the original, so that's kind of beyond this, as I demonstrated last week. But just remember, keep it smart. This does it by default. The only problem people run into is when they do copy and paste. But because this is a smart object already, if I was to drag this here, paste it, it attached the smartness with it. So you could resize this no problem because it's a smart object. You can go back and forth. Press enter, and T, back and forth. Doesn't matter if it's an image or a logo, right? The quality, I mean, this is not the greatest quality. It looks a little pixelated, but that's because the image was like that. You can see here, there's no, degradation of the quality. Okay, so that's your, very important lesson on smart objects and retaining quality in Photoshop with images. As some of you asked me, hey, how do I make image good quality from bad quality? there's no magic formula. Okay, you have to. That's why people spend money on equipment like good 4K resolution cameras or images or videos. That's why you hire professionals to take the professional photography. So you have to get good sources to work with. And yeah, Google's not going to give you the good sources. And I know some of you were asking me, hey, can I get stuff in other platforms like Pexels and stuff? You just have to look for quality photos. You have to look for it. Anywhere between, thousands of pixels, the free download, you're already getting a good quality image. Like this is really good quality. There's large, original. Now, some of you will say, hey, follow them on their Instagram and stuff, or, give them some kind of a contribution. But some of them give me a good option to download the best quality that I can. So if I go to, Photoshop and I want to place this image here, file, place embedded. There's the one I just downloaded from that website, right? I'll just use the crop tool. I'll crop my image based on the or canvas to match the image size. Now I have, a different design altogether. Look at the quality of this image. I mean, it's really nice. Based on how you paste it, um, it's not nice like this because I brought the high quality image into this environment. This environment was limited to 1,000 pixels, but the image's potential was 4,000 pixels. So sometimes when you bring in large images into smaller formats, they do have no choice but to downgrade. So be careful what you bring in, why you bring it in, and how you bring it in. Okay. Because if I was to open up the original image, you know, obviously it's a lot better quality. See? Look, I'm zooming in. One way you can really tell the image quality is if you zoom in closely and you can see, eventually you'll see pixels. I don't care how good the quality is. You're going to see pixels eventually. But when do you see the pixels? Now or like much later, right? Overall, when you do this, you can see by experience, you can tell a good image from a bad image just by looking at it. Okay. So this is something comes through time. So be patient and be assertive and, look for good images. Go ahead, Matson.
Is there another way of creating smart objects? Because you just go through this like today, but I have noticed like on my movie poster that actually it was like kind of automatic. Like if I go through all my images, a lot of them are they have that icon, and I didn't know what that means until now.
Yeah,
But I actually didn't convert it myself. So I don't know
right.
if that was like automatic happening, and I don't know why.
So ever since 2000 and something or one, I believe, automatically Photoshop replaced the command that says place. It used to be just place. Now it's place embedded and place linked. As soon as you place something embedded in Photoshop, it's considered a linked object. So yes, it's automatically to answer your question. So if I go place embedded, I'm assuming that's what you did, and I place pretty much anything. Let's say I place another image on top of that image, right? This is now considered a smart object. Actually, they're all smart objects, right?
Yeah,
So it
that's what
happens,
happened then.
it
Yeah.
happens automatically, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now
Yeah.
I understand. And actually, yeah, I was that was my question to you, like how I can, like make my image a good quality, because once I was trying to make it smaller or bigger, then yeah, it was losing quality, and now I know why.
So if you keep it smart quality like this, the smart
It will
image, and
not. Yeah.
it should not do it, right? But then some people, this is like for non-professionals, they're like, well, then I can't erase the mountains because what they do is they go to the eraser tool and they try to do it this way, and Photoshop will say you can't do that to smart objects. So what Photoshop will do is rasterize it. You pressed OK. You saw me press OK very quickly. Notice how it's not a smart object now. What that means is now I can go ahead and delete it and, take stuff apart from it and stuff. But that's the benefit of having, I guess, a non-smart object, because then a basic, editing could be done. But we know how to do this in advanced editing without taking away smart object, because what we do is we give it a layer mask. We use the black and the white brush, and we can really do this professionally, but not just deleting, but taking away parts of the image that's see-through or not see-through. So there's ways around it once you get better with the program. And this is something you have to grasp. And this is, over the upcoming weeks and lessons and exercises. And once you understand this, you get better with the software. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Professor, this is another question relating to this. I also realized that when I was working on images and trying to resize them, even though I hit shift, I don't always get a very even decrease or increase in the size. Sometimes it stays uh, um, true to its original ratio of height and width, but sometimes it doesn't. So I don't understand how that works yet. I'm a little bit thrown off. Sometimes it seems to have the integrity retained and sometimes not. How do I understand
I
that?
noticed that also, Mila, with I think the newer versions that were installed on some computers. I thought it was a Mac and a PC thing. It's not. I think it's the preferences. Let me see if I can, because when you press Command or Control T, for me, I have to hold. If I don't hold Shift, this is what can happen to my image. Now, for some of you, this doesn't happen. Some of you, when you do this, it automatically keeps it in proportion. Me, I gotta hold Shift. If I don't hold Shift, this thing won't be constrained perfectly. To hold Shift or not to hold Shift is the question. I don't know. I think once you figure out in your computer, you'll be the judge of that. You can say, I don't have to hold Shift. And some of you will tell me, we do have to hold Shift. I think most of you understand what I'm talking about. Let me see a raise of hands now that we really went in depth in this subject. How many of you have to hold Shift when you resize an object in Photoshop? Let's see hands up. 4 people have to hold 5 people, 6 people, including myself, 7. So the rest of you don't have to hold Shift, while others do have to hold Shift. Interesting. Could be also the version that you're using, or you know what? Here, let's sometimes we get good old Google will answer.
Professor,
Yeah,
in my case, I didn't have to use it.
you didn't have to, right?
No, and I was doing it, and it was worse if I pressed that.
There's a
Yeah,
community
I
in the
think sometimes if I do hold shift, it doesn't. It just still distorts the image. I feel even though I hold shift, it
so
distorts.
don't. So for you, you don't have to hold
Oh,
Shift in.
okay. Oh, so
So
then
this
I
was
don't have to. I
Yeah,
see.
this is a big debate, guys. It happened in the Adobe community. Solved. Transform Shift no longer maintains aspect ratio. Like people went bananas over this. Okay, there was like big arguments and stuff. How to bring back the old Shift to scale behavior tutorial. I think there's like a setting. Oh, here we go. So let's see the checkbox. Photoshop training channel.
Hi, welcome back to the PhotoshopTrainingChannel.com. I'm Jesus Ramirez. In this video, I'm going to show you how to bring back the Shift key for proportional scaling in Photoshop. In a previous version of Photoshop, they changed the way that transformation works. When you press Ctrl-T, Command-T to transform a layer, you no longer have to hold Shift to scale proportionally, and that confused a whole lot of people. The new behavior is to hold shift to unconstrain the transform. And those of us who have been using Photoshop for a long time are used to the old behavior of having to hold shift to transform proportionately. And as you saw in a previous video in the Photoshop training channel, there was a hack that you can do to bring it back. But luckily for us, the new update, Photoshop CC 20.0.5, adds a checkbox that you can just simply click to bring back the old behavior. So make sure that you update to this version. What you need to do is press Control K, that's Command K on the Mac, to bring up the Preferences panel. Then in the General tab, you'll see this checkbox labeled Use Legacy.
Okay, so there's her answer. I figured there was something. I just honestly didn't care to do it on my computer because mine's already set up to legacy format. It remembered, I guess, my preferences from before. So under the general settings, we can actually check this on or off. And this can solve all our problems right now and make this work or not work. So under general settings or preferences, use legacy free transform. There it is. Okay. So you can leave it on or off. I'm going to keep mine off. If I leave it on, now it doesn't work at all. So I prefer, honestly, the way I see it right now, to keep it off. So you might have to restart the program also. So I'm gonna keep mine. Is yours on or off? Can you guys check? And mine is off. How many of yours is off? Let me see hands up. Go to general or settings, general, and tell me if this is off. Hands up if it's off. So far I see Bhuvanesh is the only one that's off. And Bhuvanesh, does yours constrain normally and risky as well? Oh, sorry, I got to give you time for this. I apologize. It's like I expect answers right away. So take like whatever 10, 20 seconds if you have to. So for those of you that are the setting is off, I think it might be the same people they have to hold shift to transform. The rest of you don't have to hold shift to transform. As you see, this is a debate that they had with this whole process. And yeah, this is another video. Reach for and the shift key in Photoshop.
No, you aren't going crazy. Something is different about the way free transform now works in Photoshop. With my layer selected, if I press Command or Control T to go into free transform mode, I can scale the layer. Now, of course, I'm holding the Shift key down because that's how you scale things proportionally in the world of Adobe products. However, the aspect ratio isn't being respected. What's going on? Well, you no longer need to hold down the Shift key to scale something proportionally in Photoshop. If you don't like this change, there is an option that you can activate to revert to the previous way of doing things. Open up the General section of the Preferences. On a Windows machine, you will find it under the Edit menu. Here on a Mac, you will find it under the Photoshop menu. The option you are looking for is Use Legacy Free Transform. Activate that, and you'll be transforming things like you did in the good old days. Hope that helped. Catch you later.
So same deal there. Mine was off and it works. Yours is on, it doesn't. I can keep going on about this, but you get my drift, right? Basically, that's your setting for that. And I don't know what else to do based on, the preferences. Maybe restart the program or something. Just hold shift as long as it works. Either way. Yeah.
Power nap.
Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so basically, if you hold shift or don't hold shift, use whatever works. As long as it works, constraint has to work in some way or another. So you be the best judge of that, okay? Let me know. All right. minimize this window here. So non-destructive layers, scaling, these are all important things. I'm glad we're covering this stuff in depth because you have to understand how this stuff works, right? Especially with using Photoshop. Here's another one called image size in the same folder that I'm giving you here. Preference store, again, this is an older version. I don't recommend you change the preferences except stuff we talked about now with the legacy transform on or off. You can do that at your will. And the homework, we covered that last week as well. This is just having fun with layers and getting acquainted. The only thing I haven't really looked at is this one, the image size. So this shows you how the resolution works. If you change it to 300 and if you change it to 30, you can size it down or up. This is my Mac. I hold the space bar and it gives you a preview of the image. This one looks pretty high resolution. If I go to the right, this is low resolution. Just by looking at the size, I know one is bigger than the other, physically speaking, right? If I open them both in Photoshop, this is what the image looks like. Look, it's at 50%. That means if I go to 100%, 66%, 100%. I'm going to use this the hand tool, hide the ruler, and you can see how nice and clear this image is when it comes to quality, right? That's because it's a high-res image. What makes a high-res image is the resolution. If we go to image size, you can see here it's 300 dpi, 4,000 pixels, just like the one I got from Pixabay earlier for the road there, right? So this is how you can kind of determine quality. This image would be good for like large format. I can even do like a banner or poster with this one. Maybe not a trade show booth. Perhaps I can get away with it, but definitely it'll work for those particular things. Okay. Right. So you can really, and there's a limit, of course. You get images. You can even go to the most best quality images that you see, and you walk up close, you will see a little bit of pixels. Okay. Eventually, ultimately, everything is pixels. Now, the other image comparison to this one is the low res. This is the stuff you get on the internet. Like Google gives you a lot of low res files. It might look okay like this, right? But as soon as you zoom in closer, you can see how the pixels start getting, noticed more and more. Whereas this one, you zoomed into the same level and you got none of that stuff, right? So that's why you can kind of see it from different perspectives, right? There we go, right? Good res versus low res. And the reason why this is low res is because a lot of the images you get online, sometimes they're 30 pixels, whereas the other one was 300. So some asked the question, hey, this is Photoshop. I mean, it's a pretty advanced program. Why can't we make this image 300? And some try to do this. They try to add another zero. So now I'm making this image 300 and I'm making it 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. Do you think this will work? Like me making something smaller and bigger in Photoshop, will it solve the problem? Yes or no? How many of you think it'll solve the problem? Give me a yes if you think it will. Hands up.
No, I try it.
Okay, the answer is the absolute no. Okay, it won't work. There's no magic formula. If you try to now look, you think, well, hold on a second. This image is 300 dpi, 4,000 pixels. So is this one. This one's also 300 dpi, 4,000 pixels. So how come this one looks worse than that one? Because the source of this one may have been gathered from a different quality, original format, right? Which in this case, you saw me do it 30, I made it 300. People do this, eh? People do this and they submit images and they give it. So then they'll say, I don't know, look, it's high res, it's 300. And they try to argue the case, but you can't. You have to really be realistic with what's what. You can see something's bad or something's good, regardless of what the numbers show, right? This is only good as you know, the image is. So you can fake this and say, oh, it's 300 DPI. Doesn't mean it's going to be good. because the original was 30. So a lot of people try to change this and give it to the printer and they think they can get away with it. No, you can't. It is what it is, right? So this one, you can go low. I could make this 30. No, you're not going to do 30. You're going to do like 72 is the lowest you should go for web purpose use. So 72 dots per inch, you can do that. So this is good now for web stuff and all that. But you can't go from this back to this. You can't go back to 300 because you already went low. You can't go high again. See, now you're getting a bad quality image again. So there's no turning back. Okay, once you have something that's good quality, you keep it good quality. Unless you do what I showed you previously with the remember the smart object? If you make the layer smart object, you can transform it, but don't do image size. That's the ultimate way to make something smaller or bigger, regardless of the layer. That's just you working with a design. When you're working with a photo individually, this is the overall common denominator that affects the quality. So don't try to go low and high and experiment because it's going to make the image worse. As a matter of fact, I ruined this image already. Thank goodness I can go to File, Revert. Now it's going to go back to the original size. And that's only because I did not save it. So I was very careful not to do that. And that's how you can kind of determine quality over bad quality. Okay, so I hope this kind of also explains the importance of working with good quality images and keeping them good quality images, whether it's smart objects, whether it's not resizing them. You can't make something bigger that's already smaller. You got to work with what you have. Another thing with Google is I know some of you asked me, hey, can I use Google to get images because Unsplash doesn't have the actors on the movie posters, okay? So if we're looking for, very famous people here, let's say we're looking for Tom Cruise, okay? Because I saw him on the Super Bowl yesterday. And I go to images of Tom Cruise here. Some of these images are not going to be that good of a quality, right? But if I go to tools, or sorry, more, was it? Yeah, tools, and I go to size, large. Now all these should be high resolution images, not too big, but bigger than the smaller ones. Okay, so you're better off getting images. Here, let's do Mission Impossible movies because this is a movie that he did. So Mission Impossible movies, and I'm looking for size. So any size is default. Large size, you're gonna get large size images. How large? I don't know, depending on what Google spits out. Sometimes it's not, right? So then this could be, I don't know, for this one image will be here. It's not bad. You can get away with it, but it's not the greatest either. Okay. So if Google's the only kind of resource that you have, then be careful. At least try to filter your searching experience. I don't know if you know some other cool searchable related Google experience. If you look for, let's say, I don't know, leather coats. Okay. If you look for leather coats and you go to tools and you search for a large quality size of a leather coat and you pick a color and you go with, let's say, green, you will get a green leather coat, you see? So Google does give you some pretty cool search results based on not just size, but color as well. This is not only, see, it's a good quality leather coat. I can save this image or copy and paste. It's better if you save it, you get the better quality from it. So Google now gave me a green leather jacket that I looked for. And remember, when you're doing school assignments and projects, you can use Google, in some cases. It's not the end of the world, right? Because if you're doing copyright stuff, you got to be careful. If you're doing professional work, definitely you're gonna have to supply your own sources and stuff for from your clients or who you work with. I'm gonna go place embedded now. Actually, let's go to place linked. Let's go to place linked because I'm gonna do this one now, the difference. I'll place the green jacket. There it is. Oh, by the way, this was a WebP file. Okay. And this is the new file that the web uses now. It's called WebP. They give you a proper definition of a WebP formats. WebP formats. Okay. So it's a modern image format that provides superior lossless and lossy compression for images on the web. So it's even better than JPEGs, some say. I still like JPEGs, but it's pretty good. And webmasters, web developers can create smaller, richer images that make the web run faster. WebP lossless image are 26% smaller in size compared to PNGs. This is published just this December in 2024. So significant compression. JPEG was the original company that produced images. Your phone right now, we're still running JPEG. WebP is the kind of the new format. Web progressive, I guess it's called. I don't know what the P stands for. But the main challenge, it's not supported by browsers and platforms. Up until this year or last year, Photoshop couldn't even open WebP formats. Now with the new updates, you can bring in WebP formats into Photoshop, right? I'm just going to get rid of this white background here. So there's my image, right? And if I double click, it opens it up separately, right? A separate design. I'm going to use the background eraser tool here, or magic eraser tool, right? Save. So I'm saving it as a WebP format now, okay? Maximum 100%. So WebP is a format added to the Photoshop list, which is really cool because now you can save WebP formats. And yes, automatically it'll update the actual file here and there. Let's say I want to change the color of this. I'll go to Image Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. We want to make this like a purple or a lilac type of leather. Okay. It's not updating because I haven't saved. As soon as you save the image, because it's linked, it'll update the image here as well. Okay, so that's how these work. And yes, this is a pretty good quality image. Like the quality is pretty decent. Okay. So WebP, the new format that's taking over these days, JPEG was around for 20 years, maybe more, maybe 25 years. JPEG stands for Joint Photographic Export Group. Those are the developers that created this lossy compression image format. Every smartphone uses JPEG. When you take pictures with your phone, your cameras, most of them do JPEGs, right? A lot of the graphics now are also PNG. PNG is another format that's for portable network graphic. It's great for transparencies because JPEGs do not have transparencies. I don't think WebP images do transparencies as well unless you treat them properly. Actually, they do. Never mind. This is a WebP, so it does do transparency. So it's like having the best of both. A JPEG with transparency. People always said, how come JPEG doesn't do transparency? Because PNG was the answer. Now WebP basically solves both of those problems because it does transparency and low image file size for websites. All right. So another important stuff there we covered. So I really like how we exploited all these important things, topics, because it's not just about Photoshop and doing this and doing that. I know we do a lot of fancy things in the tools and selections. But this is the fundamental stuff that's so important. And if I did this the first time I met you in this class, it wouldn't do justice because you don't, now you kind of appreciate it more. You understand the Photoshop capabilities, and now you're working with real projects. You can see how image quality is important. Perfect time to introduce this to you, like right now. I did mention it to you, by the way, but not in greater depth as I did today. So I hope this helped you make better understand and make smarter decisions when it comes to formats. So WebP is the new one, JPEG, PNG, they all work. It's just about getting the right image uh, for the right source. Okay. Remember this one too. We got the gladiator image from last week. Okay, so that leads us to the last part of the lesson. This is your layers assignment. I'm going to release it right now. So it's due next week. So I'm going to release it for you. This one you can do today. Okay, so this is the, they always do this to me this time if not, I have to re-upload the assignment. It's doing the 17th, this one. You can do this one today, okay? When I finish the how-to, you can finish this today. To reload the code here. I'm having issues changing the dates. This is what happened to me last time with this online stuff, with these due dates. Oh, for crying out loud. All right, I'm gonna have to make this. Can you see this file though? Let me see if you can see it. I'll have to fix this one here if I can, but give me a moment and I'll get it going for us, okay? If not, I'll just have to recreate the new assignments and I'll give you the advanced layer exercise here, this one here, okay? So rather than see here, the system's glitching on me. This one's fine. This one's fine. This one is giving me problems. I don't know what it is. I'm going to delete that file. Maybe that's causing the issues. Yeah, it was the file. So the zip file that I had interfered. Well, at least I figured it out, eh? Look at that. Should do some IT troubleshooting. So sometimes if you have zip files attached with assignments, it causes issues. So now I can change it to this one. And then we're going to go to February the 17th, which is next week. So I'll give you I know you can do this today, but I'll give you for the whole week so you can practice and do a good job as you did with the other ones. Okay. Awesome. Done. Okay. So what am I giving you? It's called Advanced Composition Assignment. You're going to follow the instructions and complete the entire composition in Photoshop using all the intermediate advanced methods demonstrated in the lesson. This will cover and review all the methods learned thus far, reiterating the important techniques applied in today's digital imaging techniques. Good luck and have fun. So complete the entire exercise. A Photoshop version is to be handed in. Feel free to add your own creative touch to maximize overall presentation. Okay, that's what it is. Where's the file that you're working with? I'm going to have to add it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add it right now. Perhaps I'll have to compress this one again. Go back to this one here. So this is the file. Compress. I'm going to upload this file to share with you because that's the file that has all the stuff that we need. How big is this file? It's only 10 megs. Okay, it's not that bad. All right, so there's your file here. If you download this file, then you, what you do is when you submit the assignment, just give me the Photoshop file, okay? You should have access to this right now. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you how this assignment works. So basically, I'll guide you through it, and then whatever time I stop and I do my explanation. You'll have the rest of the remainder of the class to get it done. This should not take you longer than 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, this one here. So what it is a compiled exercise assignment that covers all the intermediate techniques we covered recently in the software. So if I open up the file here, never mind, it's right here. You're gonna extract this file that I attached with your assignment. If you open it up, you're gonna get a folder. The folder will contain all the files. This is your file right here. It's called Start PSD. These are your supplementary files to help you with the design. This is not the best quality image, but we're going to use it anyways. These are pretty decent. This is your instructions on what you have to do. It's a simple one-page instructions. And what makes this assignment special is that you get to learn and practice all these important things. For example, we start by opening the file. We're going to select a layer, go to 50% opacity. Well, the layer is actually called go to 50% opacity, and we make it 50% opacity. Rename the layer stripe. Open this tree file, PSD. Oh, someone's got their mic on. Okay. Merging documents. Scaling. We covered scaling earlier. We talked about using scaling the right way with the holding shift, not holding shift. Magic eraser tool. Retransform. Blend. We did blending last week. Twirl down means a little triangle to open the layer blend mode options there. Masking. We're going to work with the layer mask that's part of the file. Effects. I'm going to add some layer effects on the file. Clipping. Clipping is more advanced. We never covered clipping, but I'm going to introduce it to you here anyways. And next week, when I see you next class, we'll cover more like layer clipping and clipping paths that associate themselves with Photoshop. Very special advanced technique that we're going to learn. So this one, don't worry if you don't understand it, but it's fairly simple how you're going to orchestrate it here. Last but not least, saving. We talked about file formats and the new one called WebP. But this one here was the original one to keep the images at the highest option retainable with additional things like alpha channels, clipping mask. It was called TIFF, Target Image File Format. You don't have to save it as a TIFF, but you can just save a Photoshop file. But you can save it as just save it as a TIFF. Actually, leave it alone. TIFF. It just might not be available for some of your. Let me see if it's still available in Photoshop. It is an older format. One of the most original, high resolution, compatible, advanced formats that was known in the industry. So if I save this, the TIFF right here. So TIFF, so tagged image file format, that's the last one you want to save it as. So go ahead and use TIFF. That's fine. All right. Do you have any questions? Why don't I start you off and then I'll leave you to it. Okay. Go ahead, Bhuvanesh.
Yeah, is there any other resolution we can hire, like apart from TIFF? Is there any EXR or like kind of?
Well, for this assignment, I want you to use TIFF, but you can
Okay.
use any format you want. You can use EPS for logos, JPEG, PNG. Just for this one, I want you to use TIFF. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And you can select it from the menu there. Okay, so let's get started. Basically, I'm going to open up this file here. This is what it looks like. It's a Photoshop screen capture banner. I'm following the instructions. I'll keep the instructions here. I'll keep my application over here. I'll keep my browser over here. All right. So here it says, open the file, go to 50% opacity, rename the layer stripe. I'm following the instructions here at the top of the list, okay? So that means if I go here now, let me know if you can't see my screen because it doesn't. Look, it says go to 50% opacity. So that means you go up here and you change the opacity to 50%. What you're going to notice is you're going to see right through this. It's like a screen effect. And we're going to call this stripe. That's the name of the layer. Basically, I'm following my instructions here. Next, we're going to merge documents. Open the tree PSD file, select the move tool, drag the tree to the layer. So basically, merging documents is what we're covering with this specific task. This was talking about opacity and transparency. The next one's going to be merging documents. So let's go ahead and open that document. I think I closed it down. I'll open it here. This is the document we're talking about. So how do you move this in here? So one way to do it is you click, you're in the move tool, you move, drag all the way to that tab, wait, keep holding the mouse. And yes, I always use a mouse, by the way, like with my hand. I'm not using a trackpad. Click, hold, 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 let go. Okay. That's how you bring in one document into another document by dragging and dropping. Oops, wrong one. Another way to do it is if you do this, if you drag the window outside, and now you have a window that's here and a window here. You can just drag and drop. This was the original Photoshop technique. The problem with that one is then you lost the window. You got to go back and find it and dock it again. I don't like undocking the windows. It disrupts my interface. So I like to keep things docked and just simply drag, hold the mouse, and let go. You understand? That's how you want to do this technique. Whoops. Alrighty. We're gonna go here, Command or Control T a bit, just to make it a little bigger. We're gonna plant it right there. Literally plant it. All right, next is, so we did this one, right? Now this one is open the balloon, use the magic eraser, click on the blue in the sky, drag the balloon, transform it. So this is scaling again. So scaling reiterated. So we're gonna go open the scaling file. Should make this smaller actually. Good thing I have 3 windows, right? There we go. So let's open the balloon file. Here it is. Magic eraser tool is located right over here. Doesn't only work on white backgrounds, it works on any color background. In this case, I have like a light blue background. I click there and well, tolerance is set to 5. That's why it wasn't working. I'm going to set it back to 32. 32 is the default tolerance setting for most tools because they range from 1 to 255. So 32 gives you a good threshold. It's about perceiving color and pixels, right? Because at the end of the day, pixels is what we're selecting. So if you have like, I had like 3 selected, it was selecting only those parts of the color. Now it's selecting a 32 threshold, means if I do this, it should get rid of most of the part of the balloon. Then I use the move tool again. I click, drag, hold, click on this tab. Oh, wrong one. Click on this tab. Scroll down here, and there's my balloon. Obviously, it's bigger than I need it to be. I'm going to press Edit, Transform, or Command Control T, whichever one. Hold or don't hold Shift. That's the thing you have to figure out. Press Enter, and that's how we can merge documents and scale them in scaling documents with Photoshop. Okay. Now the blending happens when we go to the layers folder and we turn the visibility and do these soft, light me, color me, overlay. Basically, we follow what they're saying to do the exact thing. So basically, this is your layers, this is your blend modes. Let's make them visible. This one says soft light. Now it's got this black halo effect, but if I go over here and do what's called a soft light, it's going to look not as, dark, I guess. It's going to be more subtle. That's what soft light does. Next one says color me. So if I do this, it looks yellow and washed up. But if I pick like a color me option, it's going to look nice and bright green. See that? The difference of nice and green or like a, evergreen color. This one says overlay me. So if I click on that, it's going to look like this gradient mask that it's placed in there. If I do pick the blend mode that says overlay, it'll do just that. It'll enhance the colors much more drastically. So basically it'll look like the before and after to give you a nice rich color composition. So basically I'm following all these, steps here. Mask, this covers the layer masking with the gauge. First of all, you have to reorder the layers, add a layer mask, select the brush tool. So we're going to do all these little steps here. So let's see, I'm going to hide this layer here. There's the gauge. Let's make it visible. Okay. Now I'm going to have to hide this one because if I move this, it's going to move that. So we've got to be careful. Let's move this on top. So now we can move it nice and freely. I'm going to put it right here. And I don't want this little piece looks like it's getting cut off. So to get rid of that, we're going to give it a layer mask. So layer mask, reveal all. That's the default one I always go to. And that'll give me a layer mask thumbnail. And this retains, if it's a smart layer or not a smart layer, it keeps it nice and the original non-destructive format, of course. If I use the brush tool now, I'm going to go ahead and just erase what I don't want. See, so you can usually edit your images that way. If I do make a mistake, like oopsies, right? Press X again, and you can bring it back, right? So you can bring it back, and you can zoom in, press X again. Remember, black takes away, white adds, so you can have superior control over all your images. I'm gonna maybe go perhaps, and I'm using the square brackets beside the letter P to have a better control of my image brush size. Or you can just go up here and change the 20 to like a 30 and get like the same thing, right? I think I hit 390 by accident there. How about 30? Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's what layer masking does. Okay. Alrighty. So I just explained all this, white and black, how it works. Effects. Twirl down this triangle on the text folder, select the text layer, and click on the effects button. Add a drop shadow, outer glow, bevel, and emboss. So let's go and do that. This is the text layer. Yes, you can do this. You can open it. You can do it individually, or if you have them grouped in a text folder, you can do everything on the folder. And guess what? It's going to apply it on all the text layers in that folder. That's pretty cool, right? So that means I'm going to go over here, move it over a bit, just slightly nudge, double click. Let's zoom in here to see what we're getting. So I'm going to do a drop shadow, right? Just to enhance it a bit. There we go, the drop shadow. They also specified outer glow. A little too much if you, I don't like mixing those two, to be honest with you, but just for the exercise, we'll keep it similar, I guess. So drop shadow and the glow doesn't look that bad actually. Just a tiny glow. Notice how the glow default set blend mode is set to screen. I'm gonna get this nice yellowy color to show up. Looks like a yellow glow. It matches my design there. And it says bevel and emboss. This is going a little too extra, but sure, if we want to control that part, we can do bevel and emboss. So it's three-dimensional looking. We can do outer bevel, inner bevel. We can do stroke emboss, a pillow emboss, right? Different types of embosses. I'll keep it to outer bevel for now. And that's how we can do all these three different layer effects on the text layer. And text layers are common for effects because a lot of times they pronounce the thing more. I would honestly limit this to like two. I wouldn't do all three. I would stick to probably just drop shadow and bevel. I would cancel one out, but all good, just to kind of demonstrate all that. So that was the effects. Next is clipping. Clipping is basically when you similar to layer masking, but the difference is we're clipping here. Where's the clipping? Oh, I think it's over here. Flip me down. So this is a texture that's superimposed on top of our image, and this is a picture of a hawk. The hawk basically is. See, I don't want to accidentally grab these. So here's another thing. Another thing you can do is you can lock the layer. So you can lock the layer, so I can't accidentally grab layers in front. That's a very clever way to do that back and forth. I'm going to move this hawk up here. And there's a texture here called clip me down. That means if you have a texture on top of a shape, in this case, a shape of a hawk, it's a real hawk, by the way, but the shape obviously determines or defines the image. So if I have the texture on top of the hawk, if I hold Option and I click between the two layers, this is the first time I'm showing you this. If you hold Option or Alt key on the PC, if you click right, you can't miss. You're gonna go right there. What it'll do is it'll clip the image inside the layer underneath it. It's called a layer clipping. Another way to do it is if you right click and create a clipping mask. It's called a clipping mask. Illustrator does the same thing when you have an object and an image. If you select both of them, and if you right click and create a clipping mask, and that's what's going to happen, and also in Illustrator. Also, the same things exist in Photoshop. Okay, So clipping masks is how this works, okay? So this is how you can do all this exercise in this one. One more before I answer. I know there's a Bhuvanesh has his hand up there. So what I'm gonna do now is basically duplicate the image. I'll rename it flatten and I'll save it as a TIFF. So I'm gonna go back here. First, I'm gonna do save as. I'll save the layer copy. So I'll call it finish. I'll call it finish. However, for the sake of handing it in and following the format, I will do this command here. So I flattened image duplicate. Okay. So image duplicate means you're creating a separate copy of your workflow. So now I have another copy here. And what are we calling this one here? Flattened. So flattened underscore Milorad. I'll put my name. Always put your name on the files, okay? And it says duplicate merge layers only, but doesn't matter because you know, I don't think I have merge layers. Leave it off for now. So I'll press OK. I'll go to layer, flatten image. That's fine. And then I'll go file, save as, and I'll save it as a on the computer, of course, because you got to hand it in. I'll save it as a TIFF. That'll keep the quality nice and large. And I'm going to save that as a TIFF. Keep it as the default settings. And that is how we're going to save this format. This is the TIFF file. How big is the TIFF file? 2 megs is not bad. There's my finished results. There's my Photoshop file. There's my finished results. Yeah, it's a lot smaller because it's merged and it's a TIFF file, whereas the beginning was the original Photoshop document. So this is what I want you to hand in. The TIFF, the finished, ready, go file. And that's how you would do this whole complete assignment that's due next week. And I'll give you time today to finish it so you can have the rest of the week to focus on your other assignments and projects. Go ahead. I know there's some questions, hands up there. Risky and Bhuvanesh, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you, like, can you explain with the shortcuts? You always using this file and text and everything, so you can teach us some shortcuts to speed up our workflow, so it can be useful for us to
I
finish
always
our project.
yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. I always try to include my shortcuts. When I hold
Yeah.
option, I say I hold option. I say I hold
Okay.
command. I do explain it. Do you have ones in particular you want to ask me? Because I can't, there's so many,
Yeah,
right?
like you were saying that layer mask, right? Like it's below to the layer. Like we can click that layer mask in a bottom of that layer tab.
Yeah,
I
that's
can
right.
see. Yeah. You're going for edit and edit or like image or something like
Right.
where,
So
yeah, layer. You're going for layer and clicking this layer mask, right? So it
that's
will be
right.
more easy for everyone to
Yeah.
touch it.
So let's say I want to do a layer mask on the balloon, right? You can either go layer, layer
Yeah.
mask, reveal all, or what we're just talking with Bhuvanesh is you can go down here and click on this little button. This is how
Yeah.
you make a layer. Let's click there. Okay, if you want to do that, you can. Okay, so that's one. The other
Yeah.
one, the other one is if you for the clipping. Remember the clipping? You can hold option to take out the clipping. Option click, or you can go right click and you can make a clipping mask from the menu. So I want to show you the menu because the video doesn't record my shortcuts. I know I'm speaking with it with my voice vocally, but I wanted to show you both ways. So option click, or you can go right click, create clipping mask, right? Same with this. You can go, layer, make a layer mask, or click on the thumbnail down here, this little button to make a layer mask. Okay, hope that explains it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. And there's more. I'm gonna be mindful to describe them
Yeah,
when I.
it's
Yeah,
there. Like we can use that FX layer and contrast and layer delete and everything is there. So
that's right.
so
Yeah. Yeah, the more
yeah.
practice you have, the better you get at it. You know what I mean? Like anything else, right?
Yeah, is there many option is available in Photoshop? Like we can go for a file, edit, and everything, and some shortcuts have been available in that bottom of the layer. So I
Yeah,
think many
but
options are available, but
yeah, and also
we
a
can
lot, a
just
lot of the
go.
shortcuts are here too, right? You see these shortcuts here, like Command W, Command W, Command Option, Command Shift W. Most shortcuts have a display of how they're done, and some are more like methodical. You got to apply them as you work, right? That's the main
Yeah.
difference. Okay,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
very good. Okay, Rizky, go ahead. No questions from Rizky. Okay, alrighty.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
have a question. Yeah, so I'm more interested on the layers that in the folder blend modes. How do you create those layers? Because at first I thought it was just a color gradient, but there's no gradient on it.
Oh, this one is, or which one? This one?
Like all
Which?
of them, because I think that's pretty like for me before I use adjustment
Yeah.
to like blend in the layers more, but I think this would be more
So to
faster.
actually to make this from scratch, you're saying, how do you make this
Yeah.
from scratch? So to do this from, let's say this didn't exist. Let's do one at a time. Let's say I take away that one, right? And then I just whoops, here. Let
Okay.
me unlock it first. So this one's called soft light, right? This one, what it is basically a feathered gradient or a feathered effect. There's many ways to do it. I think what I like to do for this one is maybe I'll use an elliptical selection marquee. I'm gonna feather it. Feather makes it soft. So if I do like 50 pixels of feather and I do something like that, right? And I make a new layer, and I press Option Delete. What I'm doing is I'm creating a feathered effect. You see? You see that? But
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do is I want to select it. I want to invert it. So it's not there, it's on the outside. If you notice, this one here has the black on the outside, right? So in this case, I'll do select inverse. I'll select it from the outside. Notice how the background selected. I'm going to press X, so I have the black, right? So I have black foreground color, and I'll just go edit fill, or as I like to use the shortcut option delete. And if I do fill, I'm going to do black 100% normal. So it's going to give me that effect there, right? If I want to do it again, I'll press another option delete, let's say. You know what I mean? And then I deselect. That's how, I guess. Oh, I think I did it on the wrong layer there. Let me just undo it here. I'll do a new layer. There's the new layer. Okay. Edit fill. And this was a black fill. That's how you select inverse. So you inverse the selection, feathered circle. Opposite of the circle is the background. Edit fill. 100% black. There it is, right?
Okay.
And then you can control the opacity of this, right? And you can control the blend mode. In this case, I think we did soft light. Soft light, this one here. See, that's how we did it. They
And
just
the
did it a
color
little bit on the
me
outside. The
and the color
color
me and
me,
overlay.
this one is just like a simple little, like a bottom gradient. I'll show you this one too. I'll make a new layer,
Bottom gradient.
right? And what you can do is, I'm glad actually you asked me these questions because nobody else actually asked me, how do you make those? I'm always assuming people experimenting make their own stuff, but these exact ones are pretty tricky if you don't know. This is the gradient tool, everybody. This gradient tool lets you blend colors. You can do purples, blues, whatever, right? Maybe even basics, which is black and the white. I'll do basics for now. So I'm just basically going to show you how gradients work. I hold shift. A gradient blends one color to the next, right? But in this case, we have the yellow gradient. So I'm going to double click here, double click, pick a nice yellow color. I love how Photoshop improved the gradients selection, right? And this one is also, I'll do another color like red. So you can change colors, right? But in this case, we have a yellow to a transparency. So basically, I'm going to do another yellow. I'm going to hold Option. Actually, no, never mind. I'm going to do this also. Let me just do this also yellow. There, yellow, yellow, right? I can copy the same swatch or the same color here, or pick another color. Do it this way. Right. If you click anywhere, you produce another color. That's what I was getting at, right? So I have two colors now. But to do a transparent and to delete it, you gotta drag it away to the right or to the left, right? So this could be, let me see what color this is here. I'm gonna copy this color and paste it here. It's the same yellow, same copy paste the hexacode right used for web stuff. The difference is with this one here, right? In Illustrator, you can do a transparency. I don't see a transparency here, so I'm gonna show you there. This is a transparent gradient. You can't do it this way, you have to select it from here. If you select this mode here, what you're doing is you're selecting a transparent gradient. You can go transparent this way or transparent that way. I'm gonna go this way. Oh, delete. Let's make a new layer. Okay. I'm gonna do transparency. Okay. Transparency from the foreground color, which will be yellow. So I have a yellow transparency gradient. Then I'm gonna go Shift Select, and that's how you get a yellow transparency gradient. Let's see here. Okay. And then what you do is you want to rasterize the layer. When you rasterize the layer, you make it normal. So it's a normal layer basically. And you can delete this little mask here. Okay. So now I have the same produced effect as this one underneath. And I went to color me from up here as the instructions gave me. And this basically did the color effect on top of this one. See? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
And this one is just a gradient. Okay. Just
Yeah.
a gradient with like a pink and a red or something. All right. Yeah, those were kind of, this was all pre-made for you, but to make this, you have to kind of do those little effects. Most of them are gradient blend effects, and hope that kind of, it gives you a little more color contrast and clarity on some focal points. All right. Any other questions? Righty. So hope that was a fun lesson for you. We did a lot of interesting takeaways and reviews and important topics we covered. So until then, next week's family day. So we're not gonna have a class. I don't want to intrude on your families and stuff. So we're going to I'll upload a lesson that I did before in that class. So we're not gonna miss anything. And if we have to do a Q&A when I see you the next time, we can cover that also. So we'll do it when we see each other. So because I can't do a makeup class because all our schedules are filled, because I'm sure you all have different things that you're doing, and I have different things that I'm doing. So sometimes missing classes is hard. So we'll just have to make it up somehow. I'll think of a way, okay? Like I said, I'll upload a video for us. So if you have some time after your family day, look at our portal. You'll have a YouTube video for that class that we're gonna miss. All right. So having said that, I want to wish you all a good night and happy family day if I don't see you next Monday, and have a nice rest of the week as well, and keep up the good work. Okay. All right. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks.